Found Koko Hamilton dead inside that crashed car with gunshot wounds. Investigators don't have a motive or suspect description, but they are still working this case. We will update you on any new information as soon as it comes in.
Greensboro police have made an arrest in a homicide that happened over the weekend. Jeremy Reynolds has been charged with first-degree murder and discharging a barreled firearm.
He died from those injuries, and police haven't released any information about a suspect or a motive in this case.
"15 minutes after 11 p.m. on September 3, 2023, a 911 call rang out at the Greensboro Emergency Center. Residents reported hearing gunshots, followed shortly by the violent crash of a car crashing into the curb. In an instant, the quiet atmosphere of the long-safe residential area was suddenly torn apart by chaos. The person mentioned in those first chaotic minutes was Koko Hamilton, 25. She is a transgender woman and drag artist with a high-energy performance style, often appearing brightly on stage as a symbol of confidence and liberation. Behind the spotlight, Koko is a friend, daughter, and inspiration to the LGBTQ+ community in Greensboro. But that night, at the same time as the urgent sound of the ambulance, another name appeared in the story: Jeremy Reynolds, 31 years old. An ordinary man in the eyes of the neighbors, but had a secret love affair with Koko, a relationship that not many people knew about. Greensboro is known as a peaceful city, where Sunday evenings are usually quiet, with the sound of insects and the occasional car. No one expected that in this once safe place, a series of horrific events would occur in just a few minutes. As police cordoned off the mangled car, questions began to arise. Who fired the shots? How did the accident happen? And most importantly, how did a love affair turn into a murder scene? On the evening of September 3, 2023, Greensboro was a quiet Sunday. Guilford College Road was usually deserted, with only a few cars passing by. Sometime after 10 p.m., the headlights of a familiar Honda Accord appeared on the road. After countless evenings in the spotlight, 25-year-old Koko Hamilton was simply a young woman driving in her city. Few people know that the story's hidden thread stems from what happened months ago. Koko had a relationship with Jeremy Reynolds, 31 years old. To outsiders, they were just two normal individuals, but in reality, this was a secret love affair, difficult to share. After a period of being together, the two broke up quietly, leaving many gaps and cracks that had not yet been healed. Those who knew them noticed the tension whenever Jeremy's name was mentioned, as if something had not been resolved completely. That night, everything happened so quickly that it was hard to comprehend. As Koko drove down the 500 block of Guilford College Road, Jeremy was suspected to be in the area, seemingly waiting. Moments later, the silence was broken by unusual noises. It was the opening moment of a short but devastating chain of events. Koko's Accord suddenly lost control. The car veered off the road, crossed the green grass, and crashed straight into a nearby office wall. In just a few short seconds, the whole journey ended with the image of a mangled car lying motionless in front of the building. What makes the incident particularly haunting is not just the moment of collision, but also the overall picture of the previous relationship. The breakup a few months ago, the prolonged silence, the signs of cracks in the past, all now appear as warnings for a tragedy. Every seemingly small detail in the past, on the night of September 3, became the background for a heartbreaking story. Looking back, the events of that night were not simply an accident. They were the result of many intertwined factors: a passionate love affair that had broken down, the inexplicable appearance of Jeremy right where Koko was, and the unusual sounds that echoed in the dark. All of them put together, painting a picture of what happened before the Honda Accord hit the wall. What seemed like an ordinary evening in Greensboro ended in a series of rapid-fire events. For those who knew Koko and Jeremy, It was a vivid reminder that sometimes tragedy doesn't come from a single moment, but rather from the cracks that have built up in the past and then explode in one short night, unstoppable. At around 11 p.m. on September 3, 2023, the Guilford College Road area in Greensboro was quiet when many residents suddenly heard a series of loud noises. First, there was a strange noise in the middle of the night, followed by a loud crash, as if a car had just crashed into a structure. Residents around the 500 block immediately ran to their balconies or opened their doors to check and were shocked to see a Honda Accord crashed into the wall of the office building. Within minutes, a flurry of 911 calls poured in. Some reported a serious accident. Others said they heard strange noises just before the crash. The emergency center received one call after another, all describing the same scene: a badly damaged car, smoke billowing from the front end, and hazard lights flickering in the darkness. Patrol officers and paramedics arrived just minutes after receiving the call. Flashing red and blue lights lit up the normally peaceful street. The scene showed the front of the Accord dented, the windshield cracked, and debris strewn across the ground. Several roadside signs and bushes were also damaged, creating an unprecedented scene of chaos in the neighborhood. Rescue workers immediately approached the car. In the driver's seat, they found Koko Hamilton, 25, in a very serious condition. Immediately, the car door was opened and a stretcher was brought in. Despite the urgent situation, everything was done quickly and accurately. Koko was placed on a stretcher and loaded into the ambulance amid the tension at the scene. The onlookers stood in small groups on the side of the road, their eyes fixed on the scene. Some couldn't help but exclaim in shock, while others held their children tightly in their arms, both scared and bewildered. Greensboro was considered a peaceful city, and incidents rarely occurred on suburban streets like Guilford College Road. In just a few short minutes, the familiar scene suddenly flipped to another perspective. From the usual quiet, the whole neighborhood was plunged into chaos by sirens, flashing lights, and the panic of residents rushing outside. The news spread quickly throughout the neighborhood. Residents who had not witnessed the incident took to the streets, discussing the noise they had just heard. Some thought it was a flat tire, while others claimed to have heard strange noises before the collision. Although the details differed, everyone shared the same sentiment: confusion and fear as the unexpected incident happened right next to their homes. As the ambulance drove away, its flashing lights lingering in the darkness, the shock still lingering in the community. Some quietly prayed for the victim to survive, while others anxiously wondered how a peaceful Sunday night could end in such a haunting scene. The night of September 3, 2023 ended with a heavy atmosphere on Guilford College Road. The dented Honda Accord, broken glass still scattered under the yellow police lights, as the clearest traces of an unusual event. For the community, it was not just an accident, but an unforgettable memory, sowing in them the insecurity about the fragility of seemingly peaceful things. On the morning of September 4, 2023, just hours after the incident at Guilford College Road, the crime scene investigation was underway. The area around the office building into which Koko Hamilton's Honda Accord crashed was completely blocked off. Police set up barricades, preserving all traces for investigation. In the early morning light, the whole scene was clear. The front end of the car was badly damaged, broken glass was scattered on the road, and a long plow trail stretched across the lawn leading straight to the concrete wall. Investigators recorded every detail, marking the location of the collision, reconstructing the car's path based on tire marks and the direction of impact. Of particular note were the numerous shell casings scattered near the scene. All were collected, sealed, and sent to the laboratory for examination. This finding reinforced the theory that this was no ordinary accident, but a shooting just before the car lost control. The Honda Accord was thoroughly examined. The results showed multiple bullet holes that penetrated the body of the car, leaving clear trajectories. This proved that the car had suffered an external impact before it crashed into the building. Every detail, from shrapnel to paint scratches to a deformed windshield, was preserved in the evidence file. Meanwhile, at the hospital, doctors were urgently assessing Koko Hamilton's condition. Medical reports confirmed that she had suffered severe injuries, both from a gunshot wound and from a head-on collision. Despite immediate emergency care, the severity of her injuries made all efforts unsuccessful. By the end of the day, Koko was declared dead, leaving her family and the LGBTQ+ community in Greensboro devastated. The autopsy report that followed sheds further light on the events. The medical examiner determined that Koko's cause of death was a combination of direct impact from the gun and fatal injuries sustained in the collision. The combination of the two factors left the victim with no chance of recovery, despite immediate emergency treatment at the hospital. The final report concluded that there were multiple bullet holes and shell casings at the scene that matched the suspected gun. The car had suffered both gunshot and impact damage, and the victims were severely injured by both. These conclusions painted a clear picture. This was no random accident, but a shooting that led to tragedy. On September 4, 2023, Greensboro was shocked by the news of Koko's death, and even more shocked when the forensic results confirmed that the night of September 3 was a series of events that began with gunfire and ended with a tragic collision. For the community, it was a confirmation of the heartbreaking truth, a loss that left an unfillable void in the memories of those who loved Koko Hamilton. Once the autopsy was completed on September 4, 2023, the Greensboro Police Department began a full-scale investigation. They understood that forensics had only painted part of the picture. What had really happened before Koko's Honda Accord crashed into the building, who was on Guilford College Road that night, and what led to the chain of tragedies. The first focus was on the surveillance camera system around the area. Hundreds of hours of video from stores, offices, and personal devices were extracted and screened frame by frame. In it, the police recorded Koko's Honda Accord appearing before 11 p.m. on September 3. What caught the eye most was the silhouette of Jeremy Reynolds gliding past on a wide-angle camera. While the image wasn't entirely clear, the gait and timing matched, and the sighting just minutes before the incident put suspicion squarely on Reynolds, who had a complicated relationship with the victim. Next, the digital team analyzed the phone data. Location records showed that Jeremy Reynolds' device connected to a cell tower near Guilford College Road on the evening of September 3, matching the time between Koko's arrival and the crash. Additionally, text messages from several days earlier revealed tense exchanges between the two. Although there were no direct threats, the urgent tone was enough for investigators to interpret as a sign of discord over the tragedy. The forensic team processed the evidence at the scene. The shell casings were sent for testing and were quickly matched to the type of gun Jeremy had legally registered. The trajectory of the bullet, the location of the car, and the marks on the Accord's body all formed a logical sequence, pointing in the same direction. The shots had most likely come from the exact spot where the camera had captured Jeremy's silhouette minutes before the incident. Along with the technical analysis, police were also looking into the personal records and relationship history of Jeremy Reynolds and Koko. Close friends said the two had been in a long-term secret relationship before breaking up a few months before the incident. The rift left unresolved tensions, and Koko reportedly still occasionally spoke of Jeremy in an uneasy mood. These details further convinced investigators that the former relationship was the key to uncovering the true motive. The biggest challenge for investigators was that Jeremy Reynolds never woke up for questioning. That meant the case had to be based entirely on objective evidence. No confessions, no confrontations, just a series of disjointed data points to piece together. Security cameras, phone records, forensic reports, and physical evidence, each piece by piece, but when put together, they formed a coherent picture. By the end of September 2023, the final report was released. Greensboro police highlighted 3 key pieces of evidence: CCTV footage of Jeremy near the scene just before the incident, cell phone records that confirmed he was on Guilford College Road at the crucial time, and forensic testing that showed the shell casings and trajectory matched the type of gun Jeremy had owned. When it all came together, the conclusion became clear. Jeremy Reynolds was the person who directly caused the chain of events that led to Koko Hamilton's death. Unlike many other criminal cases, the tragedy in Greensboro on the evening of September 3, 2023, did not go to trial. The main suspect, Jeremy Reynolds, died shortly after the incident. That meant the legal system no longer had a basis to proceed with the proceedings, and the case was forced to close in the familiar way. The suspect is dead. Although the case never went to trial because the suspect was no longer fit to stand trial, the case was closed with all the objective evidence. Greensboro police released the results as a step toward transparency with the community. Despite the lack of testimony, all the scientific and forensic data pointed in the same direction. For Koko Hamilton's family, the result provides some answers, but also leaves a void that is difficult to fill. They know the truth has been determined, but justice cannot come through a verdict, a public judgment in court. Greensboro authorities announced the conclusion of the investigation and officially closed the case. Forensic reports, camera data, cell phone signals, and forensic results all pointed to Jeremy Reynolds. But with no suspect to blame, the evidence stopped at reconstructing the truth, not becoming a conviction. In the days that followed, Koko Hamilton's family appeared in local media, expressing their grief over her loss. They emphasized that this was not just a personal loss, but a shared loss for the LGBTQ+ community. For many, the legal silence that has accompanied the case has made the notion of justice tenuous. Still, they believed that at least the truth had been established and that Koko would not be forgotten. LGBTQ+ organizations in Greensboro also spoke out. They held vigils, laid flowers, and lit candles to honor Koko's life. Many saw it as a reminder that safety and recognition for those who live their identities is still a long way off. Justice in this case is not measured by a verdict, but by the community's memory and solidarity in protecting vulnerable people. Local media reported the case, calling it one of the most shocking cases in Greensboro in 2023. They highlighted the special attention paid to Koko Hamilton, a young, energetic drag artist who was loved by the community. Koko's bright stage image and confident smile appeared frequently in the news, in complete contrast to the tragic ending. So, even though there was no trial, the case was closed with the weight of symbolic justice. The truth had been revealed, the killer had been identified, and the community had come together to remember Koko. Greensboro will remember the night of September 3rd not just as a tragedy, but as a reminder that justice sometimes comes not in the dock, but in collective memory and social solidarity. The death of Koko Hamilton leaves a void that can never be filled. At 25, she was at the peak of her artistic career, with her energetic performances, radiant smile, and confident demeanor inspiring the entire community. But it all ended too soon, when her future was still unfinished and her dreams were not yet fulfilled. The story is not just about the loss of an individual, but also reflects a disturbing reality. Violence in romantic relationships can flare up when conflicts are left unchecked. A relationship that was once a place of comfort can sometimes become the seed of tragedy. The case is a reminder that anyone can fall into a dangerous spiral if they ignore the early signs of trouble. The social message of the story is clear. Everyone needs to know how to protect themselves, and the community must work together to create an environment of empathy, especially for vulnerable groups such as transgender and LGBTQ plus people. Understanding and timely support can be the last barrier to prevent similar tragedies. And the question remains for us. In a world where the truth is sometimes hidden, are we brave enough to choose transparency to protect each other before it is too late?